p133 and looking at big ideas behind covalent bonds. Covalent bonds form between nonmetal atoms, and because they're described as atoms, you have to remember that they are neutral atoms. And because it's covalent, like in co-worker, co-captains, the atoms share the valence electrons. And the way that they are able to share is that they overlap so overlapping their valence atomic orbitals. Now, nonmetal elements, when we calculate their end, they tend to have a smaller end. The end value typically when calculated is going to be less than 2.0. We'll do practice with that in another couple pages. Now, a little piece of information, get it memorized, that when a covalent bond forms, it is made only by 2 valence electrons. So there are 2 valence electrons per covalent bond. The number of covalent bonds formed by a nonmetal element, there's a little bit of a pattern on the periodic table. It is equal to the number of single or unpaired valence electrons in the dot diagram. So it's important that you follow that pattern here. Okay, so let's start with hydrogen. Hydrogen is a unique element. It has only 1 electron, so we put that at noon. And now we just take a look. That electron on hydrogen, does it have a partner or is it single? Well, it's single. So hydrogen has 1 unpaired electron or single electron. Therefore, every hydrogen atom has to form 1 bond. Not 0 bonds, not 2 bonds. It can only form 1 bond. I'm going to skip down to number 15. Okay, so group 15 on your periodic table. Take a look at it. So group 15, top member is nitrogen. But when you look at each of their configurations on our periodic table, each group 15 element has 5 valence electrons. So here we go. So I'm going to draw this dot diagram for nitrogen. So nitrogen being in group 15, it has 5 valence electrons, so 5 dots. So electron 1, electron 2, electron 3, electron 4, electron 5. So notice at 12 o'clock, there are 2 electrons in that position, so that's an electron pair. Now, there's only 1 at 3 o'clock, 1 at 6 o'clock, 1 at 9 o'clock. So each of these are single electrons. So nitrogen has 3 single electrons, so it must form 3 bonds, just like every other nonmetal in group 15. Looking at group 16 on the periodic table. Top member of group 16 is oxygen. Look at the electron configurations. The last number in each of those configurations is a 6. So group 16 elements have 6 valence electrons, so we have to draw it with 6 dots. So electron 1, electron 2, electron 3, electron 4, electron 5, and electron 6. So group 16 elements, they have 2 sets of electron pairs, and then they each have 2 areas where there's a single electron in them. So they have 2 unpaired electrons. They must form 2 bonds. Group 17 elements, let's take a look at the periodic table. Group 17, right here. We'll draw our dot diagram for fluorine since it's the top member. Take a look. 7, 7, 7, 7. So group 17 elements, their configurations end in a 7. So they each have 7 valence electrons. So we have to put 7 dots around it. So here we go. Electron 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. when you analyze it, so we put our 7 dots there, paired, 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 unpaired. So group 17 elements, they only have one unpaired or single electron. So group 17 elements can only form one bond. Group 18 elements, okay? So we're going to take a look here at the main body of group 18. So group 18, we got neon, ends in 8, argon, ends in 8, krypton, ends in 8, xenon, ends in 8. So main body group 18 elements, 8 valence electrons. So we're going to draw it for neon. So symbol Ne, because it's a group 18er, 8 valence electrons, electron 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now when you analyze it, paired, 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 paired. How many unpaired electrons or single electrons? 0. How many bonds can a group 18 element form? 0 bonds. Now, group 14. So group 14, they have, if you follow the pattern, right? So group 14, like carbon and silicon, they end in 4, so they each have 4 valence electrons. Without going into a lot of explanation, group 14, they want to maximize their bonds, so they form what are called hybrid. So whenever they go to form bonds, they use a hybrid orbital. So this is going to be the exception for our rules. So we'll draw it for carbon. So for carbon, those 4 valence electrons, we're breaking the rules because of hybridization, which I'm not going to explain at this point, but this is how we draw it. So unpaired, 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 unpaired. So group 14 element, it will, for bonding, have 4 unpaired electrons. Therefore, we'll need to form 4 bonds. So one of the things I suggest on your periodic table is to draw the dot diagram for carbon right above it, and maybe write the word hybrid. So it's there, because that's the exception to our rule. Now, there is a periodic table trend for the nonmetals, okay? So let's start with group 17. So group 17, fluorine, it is 1 move from the noble gas, 1 move, right? So 7 to 8, 1 move. So group 17, it is 1 move from group 18. Therefore, group 17 nonmetals have to form 1 bond. Now we have group 16, like oxygen and sulfur. To get to group 18, 1, 2, 1, 2. So oxygen and sulfur and other group 16 nonmetals, they are 2 moves from the group 18. So a group 16 nonmetal needs to form 2 bonds. Group 15, like nitrogen and phosphorus. To get to the noble gas, they have to go 1, 2, 3. Phosphorus, 1, 2, 3. So they are 3 moves from the group 18, and because it's 3 moves, they have to form 3 bonds to get that configuration. I hope you're seeing the trend here. Group 14 nonmetals like carbon and silicon, look at the moves. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So they are 4 moves from their group 18 noble gas, so they need to form a total of 4 bonds. And when we look at this idea and look at their dot diagrams, it makes sense. Now, hydrogen, because of the way our periodic table is printed, people get a little bit nervous with this idea. But hydrogen is element 1. Helium is a noble gas. It's element 2. So hydrogen is 1 move from helium, even though it's printed in a weird way on our periodic table. So hydrogen is 1 move from helium. It's group 18 noble gas it wants to be like. So it can only form one bond. So become familiar with the periodic table trend, draw your dot diagrams correctly, and it's the unpaired electrons that these atoms use to form their bonds.